Dr. Saeed Ismail is the director of the Qatar Genome project. It is a national project that I was also involved in, but certainly he's the one who has took the lead, and under his leadership, this project has blossomed. Dr. Saeed Ismail got his PhD from University of Oxford, and he has been involved in a variety of endeavors in terms of research, education, training, and so forth. He has really various endeavors at the international level, and most importantly, I guess, under his leadership is the pushing the envelope of the Qatar Genome project to more of the Arab population and the Middle Eastern population. He is well published, published in Nature and in other journals. And I do encourage you, if you have the time, to go talk to him and meet him. He's a wonderful person. So without further ado, Dr. Saeed Ismail.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction, and thank you for the very kind invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here with you when you launch your own genome project. These are exciting times for you, as they were for us a few years back, and I am positively sure that you will deliver one of the best projects globally. And you all know how important it is for each nation to start exploring its own genome project. No one will do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. The new era of precision medicine means that you have to tailor, as you all know, your future health care around the genomics of your population, and even sometimes smaller groups or even individuals. So without understanding or mapping what variants are around there in your population, you will not be able to deliver this future promise of precision medicine. So this is not a scientific luxury. This is a necessity. And I'm really glad to see more projects spinning all over the globe, and especially here in Turkey. So in the next almost 40 minutes, I will be talking about 35 to 40 minutes about what we've done here out there in Qatar Genome Project, in collaboration, of course, with our partners at Qatar Biobank. So, we, as a vision, we were launched in 2013. Her Highness Sheikh Hamoza said that in this international summit for health, end of 2013, Qatar will launch its own genome project. It took a couple of years to put resources together and put people together and establish infrastructures. In 2015, we sequenced the first genome. Now we stand around 40,000 whole genomes, and the target is by 2025 to hit 100,000. Of course, 2025, I have to change this slide. Because of COVID, it slipped 1 or 2 years. So we hope that by 2026, 2027 will be around 100,000 genomes. So why do we think that we do in that small country is very, very unique, not even for that country, but for the whole Middle East region? It's because, as we all know, it's an underrepresented population. We all know that over 90–95% of genomic data that is published out there is for Western Europeans and North Americans, and without sequencing enough genomes from other geographies around the world, we cannot claim that we understand the human genome. You have to get more diversity to the genomic data, and this is going to be a buzzword. It is already a buzzword. Geneticists, researchers around the world are requesting more diversity, so that you can really claim that we have finally cracked the human genome code. So we are adding to this diversity by sequencing this cohort, very underrepresented cohort, and we are also not sequencing in vacuum. We are sequencing samples to participants or patients that are very well phenotyped. As you will listen to my colleague, we collect deep, comprehensive phenotypic data for each one of those participants. We also have, as I've heard from your colleagues this morning, we are also going for a multi-omic sort of approach. Not for everyone, but for a good subset of those participants, we will do multi-omics analysis. And the last unique thing about what we do is that in a small country now, moving from research to implementation should be easy. It's never easy, but we hope that it will be easier, and we can provide such a model, because it's a very good healthcare system, one of the best in the region, and it's a small single healthcare national system, meaning that we have an easier mission to move from research to implementation. These are some of the other multi-omics we do, as I said, to a subset of the data. So far, roughly speaking, we've done those other omics to almost 3,000 participants. We are planning now to go to 6,000 participants. So out of the 40 we've sequenced so far, we aspire to soon have 3,000 to 6,000 of them also undergoing extensive multi-omics analysis. The biobank, I will leave it to my colleague, Dr. Fatma, to speak about exactly what happens in that building, extensive phenotypic data collection. And I'll go back again and say, once we've sequenced enough Qataris, we thought that we could do something on behalf of the whole region, and we started to sequence more people from this huge part of the world, from the Atlantic all the way to the Gulf. We have a very big expat community in Qatar, and we have representatives from all those countries who have lived in Qatar for such a long time, and we are collecting samples. They go to the biobank and we sequence their genome. So we claim that we have a data set that represents almost 400 to 500 million individuals living in this part of the world. Again, this is really important to fill this or to complete this huge puzzle, to add different pieces to the puzzle of the human genome. As I said, you cannot claim you understand the human genome when you sequence only a proportion of us living on this planet. And this is, I think, why we were acknowledged. We were happy to see this Nature paper when they celebrated 20 years from the first genome, human genome sequenced. We were happy to see that they considered that our initiative is among the most important projects that were launched in those last 20 years. This is, I think, because they know, those who authored this paper, that diversity of genomic data is important. And as I said, and I will show you now in a bit, we claim to represent the Arab genome, as we call it. As I said, we have expats representing North Africa, Egypt, the Levant, Arabia, Iraq, and the rest of it. When we launched this program, this project, along with the Qatar Biobank, we like to say that our vision, our strategy was based on 7 pillars. So we were not sequencing in vacuum, we are sequencing biobank samples at the beginning, the first phase of it. We thought that this project is important to build the infrastructure. So I'll show you the importance now when COVID came upon us, the importance of having a good infrastructure. We used this program to build more human capacity in the field of genomics and bioinformatics. We also worked with the government on policies and regulations. So we were proactively working with the government, saying, look, we are producing this data that will be used hopefully in precision medicine in clinical settings, so you better get started by putting the right policies and regulations and guidelines in place. We are the biggest genomic data provider for research. We provide the data, thousands and thousands of genomes, to researchers in and outside Qatar. So we are a big catalyst for genomic research in the region, and we also fund research directly in collaboration with other funders. I'll talk about that in a minute. And now we're focusing on that 6th pillar, which is clinical implementation. We think that we are mature enough now to go into clinical implementation. And of course, the eventual dream of it is to have all this data in one hub accessible to both researchers and clinical care providers. These are some of the policies and regulations and white papers, as we sometimes call it, that will pave the way or put the foundation for more mature policies and guidelines to govern the implementation of precision medicine in Qatar. These are some of the education, the capacity building side of things that I've spoke about. We have, and Dima is leading that, we have very interesting educational initiatives that target all age groups. We have things for people in kindergarten, and we have also initiatives for students in PhD, postgraduate students in MSc and PhD. We even have a comic series, as you see over there, where the superhero, as I always say, is a scientist in a lab coat. So trying to inspire the younger generation of choosing a career in science. We have a DNA museum where we take students from their schools and tour them in this very interactive DNA museum to get interested in science. You know, the new generation want to do other things. Some of them will just want to be a TikToker. Others are choosing finance and other things, but trying to get them to be interested in science is not an easy job, but we're doing our best. For the postgraduate level, we actually worked with universities, and two main universities in Qatar, and launched two programs that I will talk about in a bit. These are the two MSc and PhD programs we launched with Qatar University and HBKU University. One of them is focusing on genetic counseling, while the other is on genomics and precision medicine. Genetic counseling is really important because for any country, as I always say, if you want to be a leader in the implementation of precision medicine, you have to have a education pillar. We even developed this actually game, and you can download it on Android and iPhones, and while they score points and get a lot of stars, they also learn about genomics. So Dima team did a great work in, as I said, targeting people on the human capacity education side, all ages from kindergarten all the way to postgraduate level. On the research side, we work with everyone. We are a central sort of group of people that are considered as a national platform where everyone meets and get access to data and get some sort of direction to focus on research projects that are of a national need. We work with hospitals, research centers, universities, you name it. We even, as I said, directly fund research. We have this grant called PPM, Pathway to Precision Medicine Grants, in collaboration with the main funding body here, which is the QNRF. I think in Qatar, in Turkey, it's the TÜBİTAK. So this is our TÜBİTAK. We 50-50, or sometimes 40-60, it depends how many we have each side. We fund every year projects focusing on utilizing mainly our data that we produce. So you'll get access to the data, and if it's a good idea, we'll even give you money to answer your questions. It's open for researchers in Qatar, but it's also open for their collaborators abroad. And for the main questions, we did not leave it for PI-driven proposals coming to the PPM, no. So here we receive good ideas, PI-driven projects, and we fund them year after year. But here we said that there are some very important questions. There are some very important papers that have to be first produced. As I said, these regions are underrepresented, so the literature is not there. So we thought that we can proactively put researchers together, divided them in 10 groups, and asked each one of them to answer an important question and produce, we call it, a foundational paper upon which to fill that gap that exists in the representation of genomic data from this region, and then fill that gap. As I said, all from Qatar are represented in this consortium and these 10 groups, and it's open for them to collaborate with anyone internationally to include in their groups. And this consortium, we call it the Qatar Genome Project Research Consortium, those 10 groups have started to produce some of the first pieces of papers on behalf, as I said, of Qatar and the region. For example, this is the first whole genome sequence. This is the first GWAS from that region on using thousands, and I think 6,000 whole genomes, and looking at associations with 45 clinically relevant traits. This was published in Nature Communication. This is the largest study on genetic architecture of Arab population, again published in Nature Communication. And if you can look at that, as we knew already that we are underrepresented in international literature, you can just look at the color coding. The first column is color coding of the subgroups from our cohort, and then the rest of the colors are the other ethnicities around the world. And you can see that the blue, the maroon, and the other one, the turquoise, are not there, almost traces of it. So what I'm saying here is that we are indeed filling a gap in knowledge, and genomic knowledge on behalf of this region. Even the ACMG genes, they were not published in such scale or such comprehensiveness, and Amal and Shavir did a great job to publish this paper, and there are 2 more papers on the ACMG mutations in these Arab population, and these, as you know, have very, very important clinical implications. This paper, published in Lancet Oncology, describes, by Lutfi Shushan, describes basically the familial cancer landscape of those populations. And the editors were happy and even gave us the cover of that Lancet Oncology journal, of that issue, again recognizing the importance of diversity of genomic data. This one by Jitesh describes the pharmacogenomics landscape. What variants affect drug metabolism in our population? As you see, these are fundamental papers that were not there. And there are more to come, inshallah. This one is by Dr. Muhammad Saad, Dr. Jassim Swedi, and Dr. Fatma, my colleague, that you will listen to in a while. Also describes the polygenic risk scores. I don't recall any paper with this size on polygenic risk scores related to heart disease on behalf of this region. And you all know that polygenic risk scores could play a very important role in future health care related to common disease. And I personally believe, others may think I'm a bit optimistic, that in 5-10 years, each of us will be talking about PRS in his casual talks. I have a high PRS for heart disease. I have a high PRS for this and that. They will be used, I believe, in healthcare planning for common disease worldwide. Now, when COVID-19 came upon us, and this is, as I said a few minutes ago, this shows the importance of having the infrastructure. So genome projects are not there just spending government money. They are doing a lot of science. They are paving the way for implementation, but they are also important when COVID comes upon you. And you will see how well we did. I mean, we sort of formed national groups. Everyone was involved, and we all said, let's work together to basically contribute to research, not only on behalf of the country, but even globally, because we have the sequencers, we have the capacity, the human capacity, we have everything in place, so why not just make it available for the healthcare system to fight this pandemic? And in this Nature paper, we were the first from outside the whole of the commons, the Western Europe, North America, and a bit in the Far East, to be part of this paper, talking about the genes, the variants that make someone susceptible for COVID-19, and he may lose his life or need ICU care because of that, and others who get COVID and escape simply asymptomatically. What genes affect the susceptibility or the severity of the disease? And we were glad to join that. We were among the first joiners of this international consortium, because we had the samples, we have the sequencing capacity, and we have the people, the bioinformaticians, who can analyze and contribute to this global effort. We sequenced thousands and thousands of viral genomes even as they emerge. And we made our sequencing resources available for researchers like Hadi and his colleagues to sequence, as I said, thousands and thousands of viral genomes, and so discover new variants as they arrive into the country, and even be used by Dr. Laith and others in his team to do wonderful work. I mean, Dr. Laith and his colleagues published 13 New England Journal of Medicine during COVID, let alone the Nature Medicine, the other. Why? Because we were providing the sequencing infrastructure. The Ministry of Health was giving him access to clinical records. He's a fantastic epidemiologist with a great group around him, and some of the world first information on the efficacy of this or that vaccine against this or that emerging variant were coming actually from this country. So this was very important. This vaccine, or the Pfizer or the Moderna or others, is effective or not effective against this or that variant as they emerge very quickly, sequence, look into the efficacy, and publish. So again, we were very proud during that interval to show that the investment in the biobank and the genome were worthwhile for the government, and we can contribute in cases of national emergency like the pandemic. So what's next? We believe that from 2015 till for 7-8 years, we have produced enough data for researchers to start, as I said, publishing and mining the data, and this will continue, of course. Every year we hope we will make more genomes available, and I was, by the way, really glad that you have your portal very early on. This is really important. As you sequence, you could have an annual or biannual release of data and make data available through the portal. Researchers get engaged, and some countries, some places chose to sequence a lot of genomes and then make them available to the researchers. I think your approach is really, really better. You will keep engaging researchers, and you will also discover gaps and problems and challenges that you could solve and work around as you go. So what I'm saying is that we will continue to produce data and make it available for the researchers, but we are now shifting into more focusing on the implementation. So we're going from being a population genomics project into clinical implementation. And as I say down there, there is no one way. I mean, everybody else, we are all new in this business. Large scale genome and biobanking projects, and then paving the way, as we say, towards precision medicine implementation. There is no one single model that will fit all, because each of us have a different healthcare system, for example. In the US, it's not like Turkey, it's not like Qatar, maybe it's different. Some are private, some are single healthcare system, national, so it is different. And where to start? And of course, you have to start very carefully choosing your pilots or your models, because you are now not talking to your researchers, which is basically your fans. You're talking to physicians in clinical settings who are very much overwhelmed with their clinical practice. You have to make it very clear to them that this will be useful, this will be streamlined, and this will be very effective. When you treat a patient, it's not like researchers. You don't have the luxury of time and trying again. You need something very useful, something very impactful that you can deliver. So you choose your pilot. We've chosen our pilots very carefully. And it's not a secret that the first pilots for implementation were around pharmacogenomics, because you can see the impact here. You are prescribing the right drug at the right dose for the right patient. So you're saving a lot of money, but you're also saving a lot of side effects. And once the physicians are convinced, then you can scale up and move to other models. These are some of the pharmacogenomics pilots we've already started. This one is on statin, led by Dr. Rania. What we do here is that we preemptively, now we started with our own cohort. We look for people who are at risk of all sorts of heart problems due to high cholesterol levels, for example, and they are on their way, if not already, to be put on one of those statins. But from their genomes that we've already sequenced, we know that they might, because of some variants they have in their genomes, they might have some severe side effects when prescribed on statins. So this is a very clear example of preventive medicine. So we go to those individuals, we tell them that you might have a serious problem, you might need statin, but be careful. If you are going to be put on statin, you might need to go for statin A, but not B, because B could cause you some serious side effects. We have another pharmacogenomics pilot on clopidogrel and warfarin, and you know those two drugs are to do with blood thinning and not only heart problem, but also stroke. And for both, what we've done is that we talked to two different groups in the clinical healthcare system. We started those pilots involving a few hundred of patients, where we have a genotyping machine just next to the clinic or even the operation theater in the case of warfarin. And you get a sample from the patient. We immediately get the genotype for that drug metabolizing variant for this, or for warfarin or clopidogrel, and immediately tell the physician that this is the right dose for you to control his INR. So the initial results from these pilots are telling us that in some cases, for some patients, we are cutting the hospitalization day from 7 all the way down to 3 days. Because the patient goes into the operation and leaves, the INR is standardized and optimized really very quickly. You don't go through this trial and error. You raise the dose, you go down the dose. You already start informed by the genotype of that patient. You know what exactly is the right dose for him. And so you save him a lot of hospitalization time. And of course, you save money on the healthcare system. We are also now launching another pharmacogenomic pilot for breast cancer neoadjuvant chemotherapies, but this one is still at early beginnings. This is another interesting pilot where we sort of are paying back to our participants who donated their samples for research. We were told by a bioethicist, Muhammad Ghali, that, oh, you guys know about some actionable life-threatening mutations in your research cohort, then you have to tell them. We told him that my consent doesn't oblige me to tell him, but he said if it's life-threatening and actionable, you have to. Of course, we cannot report on all life-threatening or actionable mutations because there's plenty of them, and you remember we do whole genome sequencing. We started this model on the BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutations. Science is established, solid. Clinicians know what to do when we tell them that you have this family carrying this or that mutation on the BRCA1 or 2 genes. And that worked really beautifully. So we identify those. We call them back. Our genetic counselors sit with them and tell them, look, you have this mutation that could cause you breast cancer, 80% more likely to have it. Are you ready to go through the right screening programs? And most of them said yes, and we literally saved lives. When this is successful, we have plans now to move to other actionable mutations and might cover even eventually the whole ACMG list. We also work with the primary healthcare system. You know, those at this level in Qatar, they have something called the wellness program. They do routine checkups to discover he or she have this susceptibility to that clinical common disease. Sorry, we started to provide them with some genomic reports and see how they react to the genomic information, because we all as scientists know it's useful, but we don't know if they will respond or not, or how positive they will be to. If you tell someone that you have the likelihood of having this or that problem genetically, you don't have it yet, but how will you react towards it? Once we finish this pilot, we will assess the whole experiment and see how we can scale it up. This array, I'll leave it also to Dr. Fatma to present more clearly, but basically this is an alternative, a cheap alternative to whole genome sequencing that we've developed using microarrays. And I will finish with those few slides now to talk about the surveys that I should have mentioned those in the beginning, but I always leave them till the end to stress how important they are. So when we started back in 2015-16, we wanted to know if the public is supporting us or not. We have already sequenced 10% of the population. It's a small country. And when you go to 100,000, you sequence more. So you wanted to see how willing the population is to engage with you and the healthcare professionals as well. It's a huge survey with so many questions, but I'll just touch on some of them that were very, very encouraging and might be useful for you. So this question, out of the dozens of different questions we've asked them, people are interested in knowing more about their genetic makeup. If you ask 100 people, more than 80% of them will say, yes, I would like to know about my genetics. Of course, there will be people who will say, I don't want to know, I just want to live my life. And many bioethicists will tell you they have the right not to enroll or not to know. This is something that each group of bioethicists will argue with or against, but the overwhelming support is very clear. People want to know about their genetic makeup. And at the end of this very long survey, it's not us, we by the way hired an independent institute to conduct the public survey. They asked them the last very question, if there is a huge program, national program, where you will donate a sample and this sample will be used for research, not necessarily for a medical purpose, 71% of them said yes. So, and again, this is not just us. People in other places, in England, in Estonia, and Iceland, have seen similar figures. Around 70% of the population in different cultures will tell you, yes, I am willing to donate a sample just for research purposes. So, and they are very generous. And sometimes you will see that those running these programs are more protective than the people who donated the samples. But of course, you have to have numbers that will basically support your argument when you say, I want to share data more, I want to make it more accessible, because those who donated the samples are interested in making it available to the research community. The other survey was talking to professionals. And as I said, that was in 2016-17, 97% of them think that precision health, precision medicine is the way forward. But the problem wasn't that they do not believe. The problem is that they need more training, and most of them are willing to take more training, and it's because of their busy schedules again. So we are now talking continuously to healthcare providers to give them some protected times, to provide more training courses for those physicians, to engage more into precision medicine. Of course, they will not be as competent as a bioinformatician to understand the report, but and the practice will always be, when we move there to implementation, is multidisciplinary teams. Those whole genome sequencing or whole exome or even gene panels, you will need eventually to have a multidisciplinary team where the bioinformatician is part of that team, the treating physician, of course, and the genetic counselor is there. But you have to have a minimal amount of knowledge to know exactly where these variants in the reports are coming from. So they need more training. They don't need to be as competent as the geneticists, the bioinformaticians, and the counselors, but they need more training. And this is why in one of those MSc, PhD programs that we've designed, we told that university, HBKU, please make it so flexible. You have more tracks. One of them, for example, is bioinformatics. Another is pure genetics. Another is on precision medicine. But please make it flexible so that those physicians, very busy in their clinics, can have multiple entry and exit points. I don't want a whole PhD. I need an MSc, or I need a diploma, or even I need 1 or 2 modules. So we are continuously talking to them to make that program very flexible so those physicians and clinical care providers can have flexible entry and exit points for them to get that more training. As I think in the next few months, we will announce that us, Qatar Genome, and Qatar Biobank have merged fully into one institute called the Qatar Precision Health Institute. We've worked together always very, very, very closely, but now we are both merging under one thing called the Qatar Precision Health Institute, and this will signal that we are now shifting gears from not just research. Again, we will continue to support research, but we will also try to slightly focus more on implementation. And the QPHI, which is Qatar Genome and Qatar Biobank together, will continue to play that central role in the healthcare system. As I said, we work with the government, universities, research centers, everyone, to basically push that agenda. It's not an easy job, even in a small country like Qatar, but in Turkey it would be even easier. The more difficult, I hope it was easier. But you need to convince everyone around that they have a stake in this great project. Once they feel that they are part of it, they will engage and they will push your agenda. Thank you very much.